This is a 1948 Chevrolet pickup truck. We needed something kind of cool to attract attention and do that right.
Gorgeous.
So this is a LS. It is supercharged, has a Magnuson 2650 on it.
Okay.
And it runs exclusively on hydrogen. So we run a gaseous hydrogen. We store it in a tank in the bed.
Yeah.
We run 350 bar, which is 5,074 PSI. We bring it to the front through military spec AN lines, and then we regulate it down to about 110 PSI.
Okay.
And then we inject that. We have 16 injectors. There's 8 in the traditional location, 8 more in an adapter that we machined that goes between the intercooler and the supercharger.
Yeah.
So it's an
Very
LS3 base.
Okay.
So we started with a production brand new LS3 block. We added engine oil squirters, piston squirters to the bottom of all of them.
Yeah.
So it has that. We used a K1 crank, K1 rods, and then Weisco custom-made pistons.
Okay.
Because the hydrogen has the potential to create a lot more heat,
Yeah.
contains 3 times the energy of gasoline,
Oh, wow.
and burns 3 times as fast as gasoline.
I was actually just going to ask you kind of what the comparison is or advantage is to potentially using hydrogen over regular fuel. But
Well, the real advantage to hydrogen is when you burn it, the only output is water.
yeah.
A minuscule amount of N2O and water. There's no carbon monoxide. There's no hydrocarbons. This is a zero emission vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It still sounds like a V8. It still drives like a V8.
Yeah.
It's running with zero emissions.
Right. Right. That's very, very cool. So, Mike, some of the other internals, you mentioned some of the rotating assembly that you got in there. How about some of the valve train? What's going on?
Well, to find the final part, we actually run a shorter rod to run a larger piston to allow us to transfer more heat.
Yeah.
It's not necessary to run on hydrogen, any of that, but because we're targeting a power level and because we have the potential to create a lot of heat, we add that safety factor in.
Okay.
This is a development car, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Before I brought it here, we took like 150 thermocouples out of it. We took a bunch of pressure sensors and transducers out of it so I could bring it here and show it. But the valve train, they're a stock LS3 head. We changed the exhaust valves to Inconel.
Okay.
It's running production rocker arms with a trunnion kit in them, and that's more of a safety factor because we plan for this thing to run a long time.
Yeah.
The camshaft is a custom grind that Arrington created. I'm not going to share the specs, but I will tell you that we run a really wide center line because the hydrogen does not like revision into the intake. So when you run a lot of overlap and a tight camshaft center line, it pushes some back into the intake and dilutes that, and hydrogen, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So we're on 122.5 center line.
Wow.
But if they're comparable lift and duration numbers in the same range as what you would see for a traditional LS engine.
Very, very cool. Very cool. So, Mike, you mentioned that you guys have a horsepower goal in mind here for it. What are you guys at with it right now?
So our target is 500 horsepower. And so we're trying, we're working on that, sneaking up on it slowly. Yeah. Right now, the biggest issue is just injector sizing, right? We just don't have enough injector.
Gotcha.
We'll get the 500 with this injector, but we're going to use them pretty much up to get there. There's more power potential. We just have to change the injector.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we do here, it's a 9-to-1 compression engine, but we're running 15 pounds of boost on it with 0 detonation.
Wow.
So there's a lot of opportunity to add boost and to do other things with this kind of package.
Yeah. Obviously, we're here at the Eaton booth, and you got, Magnuson supercharger up here, and obviously we got a really gorgeous truck back here.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about what the truck is?
So 48 Chevy. The engine, obviously, we talked about. I run a McLeod clutch in it, single disc.
Yeah.
That'll support 500. It has a Tremec TKX 5-speed transmission. The rear axle is a 9-inch Ford from Mosier. Has an Eaton True Truck in it. If you don't know, Eaton manufactures the rotors that Magnuson uses in a supercharger.
Right.
So this is kind of a perfect home for this truck, for this show. But
yeah, what better place than having that PRI?
So
right?
the body is, the doors and the cab are original. Every other piece is aftermarket, and the hood is original.
Wow.
But everything else is aftermarket. So you can, if you know anything about aftermarket sheet metal, you know what we had to do to get the fit and finish on it.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure it was a ton of work, but it looks gorgeous. As I was saying earlier, the red paint color is really
Passion
pretty.
Red Pearl is what it's called.
Passion Red Pearl.
Yep.
Definitely pops really nice, and for a car that's an R&D project, it's very unique. And,
well, technically it belongs to my wife.
Okay.
So this is actually a truck she's been wanting for
cool.
years.
Yeah.
And it sat on a hoist waiting to get time to work on it. And then when we got to the point that it was time to do something, and we had the opportunity to do the hydrogen program, her truck was a natural.
Yeah. So, well, I'm sure she loves driving it around, or will soon love driving
she
it
will,
around.
yeah.
And Mike, as always, we appreciate your time, and thanks for walking us through this LS build.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys coming.
Absolutely, and thanks to all you guys for watching.